Working on a log splitter project. This right here is just a standard 3-point log splitter. So it hooks to the back of a tractor. You see the 3-point hitch back here. So the back of the tractor would hook to these arms and be able to lift it up and down and move it around. And then instead of like a log splitter that has its own engine, it actually has hydraulic lines that you actually attach to the tractor, and you use the tractor's hydraulics and engine to actually run the log splitter. In this video I'm going to do a lift arm, because one of the biggest pain in the butts when you're working with log splitters is just getting the logs up to here, especially huge logs. So typically people do this with an extra hydraulic ram, but we already have mechanical action with this arm moving back and forth, and we have mechanical action we don't need very much with the arm moving backwards. So we're going to take that mechanical action of when the arm moves backwards and opens up this gap to actually, we're going to build a lever system back here that will actually raise up a platform up to here when the log splitter is retracted, and then when the log splitter moves forward, the arm will move out of the way, allow you to split your log, so your log will lift up, you'll roll it on, and you'll begin to chop it, break it up. So let's do it. So we got the platform. So this is actually what the logs are going to be sitting on, and it'll raise up and down. And then I got my lift arms right here, and I drilled some holes in them. Well, plasma cutted some holes in these, because now I got to make a hinge point between here and here, because these arms are going to lift up like this, and this platform is going to come up with the log, raising it to the level. So I got all my hinges pieces cut out. I just have a random piece of pipe and another random piece of pipe that fits together, and so they'll be roughly like this with that one on there, but then all welded together, this on there. So this is half my hinge mechanism. The pipe that I have, the thickest wall pipe that I had, it was strong enough. The other thickest wall pipe, there's a little bit of a gap, which isn't actually a big deal, but I want to take up some of that gap, but I also want to make a bushing. So I'm going to make a copper bushing. So I got some copper pipe here. Obviously, this isn't large enough to go around there, and for me to go buy copper pipe that large would be pretty expensive. So you can see that I got one wedged in there, but the way I did that is I just took a piece of copper pipe, figured out the length that I needed all the way around, just happened to be about 4 inches, and now I'm just going to split it. And I'm just going to hammer it flat. And I got my pipe right here that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use that as part of my anvil. I'm going to just start bending it around the other way. So the pipe went this way originally, bend it around the other way. Let's hammer it to this. There we go. Not perfectly round, but close enough. If you want them perfectly round, it spends a little more time, but now we'll just jam it inside my tube. And then we'll just jam it. Okay, I got this welded on just the bar. Now you can see more of how this is actually going to work. And then we have this whole thing that'll slide on. That's going to slide on. Still got to weld that up. But essentially, you'll have this upright here, and you'll have another upright down here, and they'll be linked together. And that'll keep, so when this lowers, this stays level with the ground. This hole is going to pivot a lot, so I got a wear sleeve. It's actually square, but it's only pivoting on one side, so it'll work. So I'm going to weld these in. And there's nothing wrong with jamming a round object through a square hole. It's the other thing that doesn't work. Still got plenty of tread, plenty of life. Duct tape. Oh, better get it lined up perfect. Like new. Okay, now I got this bar attached. And if this didn't make sense before, what you're doing is you have this angle and this angle are the same, and this one stay the same. So you're creating a parallelogram. And you'll see what it does is as it moves up and down, this is fixed to the machine, this is fixed to this. And as this moves up and down, it keeps this perfectly level. So you can see that as that goes up and down, it stays level. So now the machine, I just got to make up a bracket and some tubing that hooks to the trolley and then pushes back on this thing right here, and then it'll raise the log up to where you want when the thing backs up. And then once the thing starts moving forward, this gets out of your way, allows you to split the log. You can roll another big log onto here, retract the trolley, and up this comes. That's the way this whole thing is set up. So let's take this arm off. So this is fixed. Throw that over there. This is actually fixed to that center shaft. So this center shaft runs all the way through, and then the tubing on the outside is connected to everything else right here. And this will actually come all the way off too. It'll slide off, but there's some copper bushings in there. It's drilled for a grease zerk. But that allows, you can take the entire thing off. So I made a U-joint type setup right here. Smaller piece of tubing and a larger piece of tubing that'll pivot back and forth, but then I'll drill a hole and mount it right here so it can pivot right there, so I can align it perfectly, but this can move up and down because it'll actually move up and down as the this arm, because this arm changes angles a little bit, so it'll follow that just fine. So I'll just drill a hole and I'll tap it for a bolt and put it through here. On the other end, kind of just basically a pivoting mechanism as well, you know, with a bolt hole, so this can go through and pivot up and down, and then I'll just take some square bar and cut it to the right length and just insert that, weld that around there, and then it'll just, the other end will just slip into here, and I'll put a stop, I'll weld a stop on it so it doesn't go in too far, push against that. But that'll be our movement thing, and then you can actually disengage it by sliding. If that's out far enough and you lift this up, you can actually slide the bar from out of inside here. A little oil. Drill bits will drill forever as long as you don't overheat them. Beautiful threads. So I got this piece just sitting in there. You can see it slides, so it'll always slide in there. Right now it's hitting into up here. This one's not welded in yet, but I'll just weld that into its thing, and then this little sleeve will fit over there, and I'll weld it exactly, and that'll be a stop for this white rod so it doesn't go any further into there. And then if I need to adjust it, I can just move this anywhere on there, and that adjusts the final height at which this over here moves, because I don't want it to go too high. This ended up being too short. It would, when this is fully retracted, this center bar would fall out. So I lengthened that, and we should be good. I got 200 pounds of batteries sitting on here. So let's fire up the tractor, the 1952 Ferguson, and lift this up. And it doesn't matter the height of the jet because this is adjustable, so even if it's barely off the ground, that'll slip and adjust to whatever height. There we go. It's all finished from when you guys last saw it. I added a couple more little things besides paint, but it is all painted up. Kind of nice. The metal that I used was actually powder coated. It was from a sign, so all the square tubing and stuff I used was pre-powder coated white. I painted over it black, but it'll scratch off probably and go down to the white, but it'll never go bare steel because of the powder coating. So kind of nice. I added deflectors right here, here, and here, so a log doesn't get caught up under that edge. So if somebody pushes a log way too far in when it's lifting, it'll actually push it out and not just bind. And even if it does, this has the you know, like a log splitter valve where it holds it open. If there's too much pressure, it'll just kick that off and release it. Back here I added a couple more supports just to help support this one bar that, I mean, all that bar does is control the tipping, but if somebody puts something really heavy right on the edge, or a log got caught right on the edge and right under there, there's a lot of leverage just on this one bolt. So I put that there, took out a little bit of spring. There's a little bit of spring on it when I was doing about 200 pounds, but I do have a smaller log. It's only about 75 pounds. It's the biggest log I have around, but we'll test that out. The tractor's just going to be on idle, so it's going to go a little bit slower than it normally would be, just so you guys can hear me, but we'll fire her up. Run it without. And the biggest difference is a typical one of these, you would have to have an extra hydraulic cylinder, an extra spool valve, extra hoses, everything else. So you'd have two knobs, and one knob would control it. But you're looking in the neighborhood of, you know, up to $600, maybe even $700 just in parts. You still got to do a fair amount of welding, not as much as this, but you'll still have to weld up quite a bit of stuff to be able to do the same thing that this does for just the cost of steel, which in this case cost me a big whopping $0. But if you enjoy these type of metalworking projects, I have quite a few others. Top of my head, I think you'd enjoy. You know, I took a propane tank and an old propane tank, and I turned that into like a camp stove, potbelly stove, tent stove. That works out flawlessly. I built a nutcracker from scratch, completely designed, built it. That's an awesome thing. Cracked 70 type of nut. You know, I took the front of my tractor that just had a bucket, and I installed forks on that. That's a short little video. I'll put a link to all three of those right after this. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. Thumbs up if you like it. Go to my YouTube page, and my Facebook link is right there if you want to go to Facebook and say something there. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Bye. Don't forget to thumbs up. I think a bug just flew in my mouth.